Hi, welcome to the OFM podcast where metabolic health matters. I'm your host and the pioneering developer of the OFM program and general manager of Vespa Power Product, Peter Defty. And I like to have conversations because I'm curious and I'm just constantly on this journey to want to learn. And I learned so much from talking to my athletes, and this is how we, and I say we, not just me, we develop this program and continue to innovate and push those boundaries by working with the athletes I work with. And today I have Bree Lambert Sanders here to have a conversation with me. And Bree, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I want to give Bree a big shout out because I'm going to do the unthinkable and ask Bree what her chronological age is, because I want people to, if you're watching on the video, I want you to see this. How old are you in years?
I'm 54.
What? I thought you were younger than that.
Yeah, I know. I feel younger, honestly, but it's sometimes I have a hard time believing it myself, which is, I mean, I don't feel my age, if that, even means anything.
I don't act my age, so it's all good.
It's like, I mean, I used to think 54 when I was in my 20s and 30s sounded so old, like anytime somebody said, oh, I'm 50, I'd be like, oh yeah, that person's old, right? And now here I am 54 and I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, I'm doing this sport that I love. I'm competing with girls that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, but it's been so awesome to be able to be my age. And I can't even believe I just said that, because I just don't think it's even a thing, to be totally honest with you. But it is my age.
Right. But the funny thing is, it's like you and Roxanne are still keeping it together. I mean, you're both competitive runners. Roxanne won the female outright at the Reading Marathon.
I heard, actually, because she's a good
almost
friend of
60.
mine. Yeah, she's amazing. And I've raced, as you know, we've raced against each other.
You guys have raced back and forth for years.
Totally. And exactly. And so, she's amazing. And I love Roxanne, and I think she's doing incredible.
But the point is you're not just a single outlier. And then there's Jenny Capel, who just turned 50, and
that's right.
So it's a great thing. So 54, wow. That's awesome. And so Bree is not just an athlete. She's a coach and a nutritionist in the San Jose area. We'll give her a big shout out at the end. So if you want to have her for her services, we'll make sure you can contact with her. Your company is Live Well, Finish Strong, and you founded that. Mm-hmm. And you've been doing this a long time, performance coaching.
I have. I've been coaching, whether it's triathletes, runners, general fitness. Right. So I started in my 20s. And I actually went back to school and worked on a master's in exercise physiology, taking some master's classes at San Jose State and then also UC Berkeley, with concentrations in biomechanics and exercise phys, and then also nutritional food science. So, my undergrad is in journalism and mass communications. But then when I was like mid-20s, I realized that I really have this passion for fitness. I just love fitness. I love nutrition and understanding the human body and how it works. And so I decided to go back to school and then got certified, and have had, the opportunity of getting certified with various organizations, and then started a business, raised a daughter, and have had just this successful, honestly, I feel like a very successful career working in the Bay Area with executives and with athletes. And it's just been awesome. I mean, I feel like I'm so thankful.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're making millions and doing an IPO, but there's nothing like the satisfaction of seeing people thrive, getting them over their challenges.
Exactly.
You can't put money on that, right?
No, you can't. It's priceless. And I just feel like I have the privilege of doing what I love. I work with amazing people. I've been able to, again, just support my family. And I mean, I live in a beautiful part of the state, or excuse me, of the country. And I'm like, okay, pinch myself, it's awesome.
Plus you're married to a great guy.
I'm married to, I am. I'm married to a great guy. Yes. Yes.
Joe's a great guy. Yeah. Let's give a plug to Joe.
Yes. I'll tell him you said that. He'll love that. Yeah.
Okay. You've been doing OFM for probably 6 or 7 years.
I'd say about that. For sure.
Yeah. You started talking to me about 6 or 7 years ago, but I think the really neat thing about it is let's roll it way back to the beginning when this became my day job.
Yep.
Because that's when we first knew of each other through our friend Rob Evans.
That's
Big
right.
Shout out to Rob.
That's right, Rob Evans. And you're right. So actually, I remember Rob training for Tahoe Rim 100. And I want to say it was like right around 2009, 2010. And at that time, you were involved in Vespa, you'd given him some product. And I remember him telling me about it. And I was very skeptical. And then I'll never forget this. Then fast forward, I was running Western States in 2013 and Rob paced me. And I'll never forget this. And I can't remember who you were pacing exactly, but you were out on the course and Rob and I had just crossed Rucky Chucky River and we're making our way up Green Gate. So then we hit Green Gate and I just remember Rob looking over and saying, "Hey, Peter, how's it going?" And you and I can't remember.
Was it Ling Ru?
I think so. I think so. Bruce? I think it was Bruce. It was Bruce.
Okay.
Bruce. Yes.
Okay.
And I remember he looks over and he says, "Hey," that's right. It was Bruce. "Hey, Peter. Hey, Bruce." And you guys were just chugging along, like just no worries. And I remember in my head thinking, oh my God, like I was ahead of that guy for a little while and now they're just taking off. And I just remember Rob looking at me and saying, "You see, if you were on Vespa, you could be like, just charging no worries at this point." And of course, I was like, I was feeling it, because at that point I'm at 80 plus miles and I was doing pretty well. I mean, in terms of women, I ended up finishing that race like 14th woman or what have you. Yeah. But all that is to say, it really compelled me. I remember seeing Rob's progress and then, other athletes that you had been working with.
Because I remember Rob immediately, you were like the first person he told once we started working together. And it was it 2009 or 2010? I coached him. And he ran the 13th overall at Western States, had the run of his life.
Yes. And that was significant for me as well.
Yeah, but it was still pretty woo. I mean, back then you weren't trashing me at least, but there was a lot of people that were like thinking Rob and I were crazy because Rob's kind of out there too, right? He's willing to try things. He's a guy that's not afraid to try new stuff. And he was running with Eric Skaden and Mark Lance, and they gave him a lot of grief about what he was doing and what I was doing. I mean, I remember telling me these things, and it's not anybody's fault because that was the mantra then. I mean, you did carbs and you figured out ways to get more calories in, and all
the tradition. I call it traditional, but I feel like it was this is just what you did, right? So for me, I was like, wait a second, this is very counter to what I was learning in university.
Right. At San Jose State and Berkeley.
Exactly. And so for me, I was like, what is happening right now? And it was new. It was science ahead of science, right? And so now science is supporting what you're saying, which to me is amazing. Right? Because you were already ahead of it, but we didn't know you were ahead of it until now. Like you were really ahead of it.
We're still ahead of it. We're still ahead of it. It's kind of like crazy how what we're doing. I mean, you're living it, right?
Yes.
But you're seeing what Jeff Browning's doing at 51.
Yes. Right. And I'm even me. I mean, I feel great. I mean, I'm excited about my season coming up, and we can get into that later if you want. But the fact that What's that?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So the longevity of the sport, I'm going into my 17th ultra season, and I've done, look me up on ultra sign up people, but it's amazing because I feel so, again, grateful.
And this is the thing, I want more than just a bunch of ultra runners and triathletes to look at this podcast, but going to ultra sign up is if you know what you're doing, you'll be blown away, because people like you or Jeff Browning or Nick Curry or Peter Mortimer, you look at their results, and it's like, you guys are racing after racing after racing. How many people have we seen come into the sport, be phenoms for 2 or 3 or 4 seasons, and then they drop off a cliff?
Exactly. 100%. I've been in this. Yes. And we could definitely talk about that, because that is something that I have seen. I've been in it for a long time now. I feel like I can talk about it from a place of actual, like, okay, I've been there. I've been racing with some of these incredible athletes who now are just, I'm like, where are they?
Right.
So yeah, I agree.
Well, and this goes back to it. I mean, I'm not trying to bar drum. It's just I really actually am trying to help all these people. And I know you are too in your work, because people don't understand. By ultra running and Ironman gives you that ability to really push things to a limit and see things that you really can't see on a more less scale. But people are doing the same thing at a lower level by eating too many carbs and not being too sedentary, not getting aerobic fitness up. All those years I was doing it, my early adopters were people like Jenny Capel, Roxanne, John Olson, Timothy Olson. They were all people who were having serious stomach and gut issues. Serious. I don't know if you ever got that. I mean, you probably had your share of bonks and pukes, because that's what you did in the old days. And because that, unfortunately, that was seen as normal. But for people like John Olson, Timothy Olson, Jenny, who else did I mention there? Roxanne. Right. It was throwing their races. Right. Jean Pommier, it was throwing their races, because they would get such bad GI. And that's when I looked at the physiology and then I started to realize, oh my God, these guys are actually accelerating their decline.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, I don't think you got quite to that point, but you knew that. But and that's how Jeff Browning came to me, because he even said he was considering giving up competitive running in 2015.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring up Jeff, because I was on a retreat with he and Chrissy Mail and Carl Meltzer and Rock Horton. We were in Utah for a Ultraspire retreat, and I'll never forget, Jeff, we were all, we were there for like a weekend, and we were all just kind of sitting around huddled, and Magda was there as well, and just talking about, nutrition and so forth. And I remember Jeff telling me about his challenges with GI. Gut, having GI issues. Yeah. And so it's obviously it's great to see him push through all that now, and he's doing great. But I remember specifically him sharing, like, he was trying to figure this out. He's like, gosh, I got to figure this thing out, and doing a lot of different shakes and things like that.
He made the change in late 2015, and Hurt 100 was his first race in 2016, and he hasn't looked back.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But I guess the point is that you, Roxanne, you, Jenny, talking specifically about females, I mean, you guys have never looked back and never have had the problems, and just have consistently raced well and trained well, and also living life well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think that's it too. It's like, I feel like it's got to be all these components pulled together. You can't just have one thing. It's got to be a combination. And I think that we've all strived for that,
That's right.
So yeah. And I think that, like, for me personally, I've never struggled with GI issues, and I'm really grateful for that. But I think when I started using Vespa, and then I changed, to OFM nutritional profile, it did make a difference for me. And it took time. I think the thing with Vespa is, and I want to put this out there, is, oftentimes everybody thinks that it's like a magic bullet, right? It's like, boom, it's just going to happen overnight. I'm going to feel different. You will feel different. But what I want to emphasize is that it takes time. And it takes, also the discipline of understanding how to set your nutritional plan in place so that it really works for you. Because if you don't, then you're going to walk away thinking, oh, well, it's just a gimmick.
The other thing about Vespa that's really hard is because people are looking for that quick fix and they want to feel that instant thing. Vespa
Precisely.
doesn't work that way, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you just feel like you had a good day.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And we've talked about that, you know, it's like, I remember running Tahoe Rim 100 in 2018 and I won for the second or third time. And I remember, because I won it in 2009 and then in 2011. And at that time I wasn't using Vespa, but 2018 I was using Vespa. And I remember the next day, no soreness. Like I literally was like, my crew, and I'm not just saying this, who, for those of you watching, it's the truth. Like I literally was just going up and down the stairs, frontwards, backwards. And my crew, they were like, okay, you just ran 100 miles. I'm like, yep, I know. I feel amazing. And I honestly think it was because of the Vespa.
Yeah. And that was Jeff when he get hurt. He was 1 month into Vespa and OFM. And he said after hurt, he was sending pictures to his wife because his legs weren't swollen. He was able to do air squats. He said you used to be like had total edema, had to walk backwards down the stairs, all this stuff.
Exactly.
He said I was flat floored. And so this is, and so, I want to constantly keep reminding people about this because this is where the value of Vespa is. And and especially when you combine it with the rest of the OFM protocols, because it gets stupid, right?
That's right.
That recovery is actually not recovery per se. A little of it's recovery faster. Most of it, 80-90% of it is you've prevented damage, cellular damage in the first place, right? When people get that they're not damaging their cells, their mitochondria by burning all that sugar and having all that lactate load to deal with. It's huge. And this is what we've been seeing. And not only that, with the data we've seen, and you can corroborate this with your own anecdotal experiences, it allows your body, when you do a workout, instead of recovering from the damage, your body's actually working to get stronger and fitter, right? It's an adaptive stress. It says to your body, I need to get healthier. I need to get stronger, faster.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that adaptation that then happens because you're stressing it, but then you're also not stressing it to the point that you're tearing down. And I think that's the benefit of, as you said, that is the benefit of Vespa, is it helps that, prevention, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, from happening, that tear down, that at the cellular level. Yes, exactly.
It's kind of funny because I looked at Jeff's ultra signups this fall, like around September, and I took his results from Hard Rock to Hard Rock because Hard Rock 21 was the 16th of July, Hard Rock 22 was the 15th. So a full year cycle.
Right.
And he was doing something big every 6 weeks. Big. So he was basically going from one race, getting the adaptive stress on that race, and then peaking again 6 to 7 weeks later.
Right.
He did like 9 different big things and won several of them. Several were record setting, course record or an FKT, and his lowest finish was 5th place at both Hard Rocks.
That's right.
But he was doing this, he was doing just going from race to race. And the thing with Jeff is, that's great. He does the sport and he has the opportunity to do that. Not everybody does. And so it's like, no, that's his day job.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I know I'd love that. However, all that is to say is that I feel like it's encouraging because it means that other people, can certainly expect to see some results. You know what I mean? So, and I
Dramatic
mean, even
results. Yeah.
right. And even for me, I mean, for the last few years, things have been a little crazy in my world.
You had some stuff
Yeah.
that on the personal level that were
Precisely.
you had to back away from things. Yeah.
Right. So
Not to mention the pandemic.
well, I was just going to say that. Yes, the truth be told. But the other side of it is that I'm excited because this year I feel like I'm finally back to where I was before everything started going a little bit nutso in my world. And I'm using that word very loosely because it's very serious.
That's right. Because I think the last time I saw you guys was in 2019 or early 2020.
No, the last time you saw us was in 2017, 18. Yeah. 2018, I want to say, because then
18,
because that's the year that we lost my mother-in-law. We lost her.
Yeah, because
so that was, and then
it must have been 2018 then. Yeah.
Yes. And so now since then, I feel like, okay, this year is really the first year I feel like I can finally get into that rhythm of racing again.
I had like a 4 or 5 year stint of just craziness.
Yeah.
Focus. I know you could in 2020, nothing was happening. So that's really cool. Yeah. And so I want to bring up Jeff one other time, just so we can help the audience understand that you're not a freak of nature. Jeff's not a freak of nature because Jeff shared with me, we come from similar backgrounds. We both grew up in farms, and my dad wasn't a full-time farmer. Jeff's dad was, but he was a farmer in Missouri. They did what most Americans do. And Jeff says, people think I'm different, but like you, he's into his health, he's into his nutrition, he's into his lifestyle, he's paying attention to those things. Whereas his parents, they both died of complications of the typical things. They didn't know better. It wasn't like they were trying to trash their bodies. They're hardworking. And his brother is a very different, looks like your average American from the Midwest. And it's not, we don't want to bag on him, but it's like Jeff's no different than anybody else. And Bree Lambert isn't anybody different than anybody else. Peter might be. Peter and Rob Evans, we might be a little different.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but my dad was a rancher
and a trucker
and a truck driver in the Central Valley. So, and
he's from my hood.
Yes. And so my grandfather in Kingsburg. Yeah. And so my grandfather had about 100 years ago.
He wasn't Swedish, dirty.
No. No. But I have Spanish Portuguese. My grandfather actually died of colon cancer and did not have the best diet, to be frank. And I recently lost my father just last month. I guess all that is to say lifestyle and then nutrition is so important. And when you don't have the knowledge or the understanding, it just makes it really difficult. It makes it hard for your body to recover and to operate efficiently. Let's just leave it at that. So I feel very fortunate that I understand nutrition the way I do. And I've made, changes to my diet over the years that I think really works for me personally, but also as an athlete.
Well, also, I mean, and look at you, you're not aging. You look great. You're still attractive, and you are. I mean, seriously. I mean, you're 54, right? There's no plastic surgery, no lifts, nothing like that. What you see is what you get there, and people want to know what that longevity is, and it's that combination of not doing this damage of the oxidative stress, right? The cellular damage, and then also getting the right nutrition combined with the right adaptive stressor,
right?
To keep your body rejuvenating itself.
Exactly. Yes. And by the way, I do have a great skincare regime. So if anybody is interested, let me know. You can always message me and I'll tell you my skincare secrets, because one of the things that I hear a lot is oh my gosh, your skin's not all up, like you're not all dried out. You don't have all these, you know what I mean? It's funny when people meet me and they discover what I do, they're like, wow, you're outdoors all those hours, days a week, months, years. And I'm like, yeah, because I really work hard to also take care of my skin. And so that's a whole nother subject.
Well,
But
it is, and that'd be great if we could share that on the in the notes. But a big part of that is the fact that you are metabolically fit. And then that exercise, the sweat,
that's right.
Turnover.
Yep.
That's a big thing. And what led to the faster study was a little not well-known study called the Western State Study that went on. It was done in 2012.
Okay.
And we got a bunch of, it was Jeff Bollock and Steve Finney, and I got a bunch of athletes. We got the Western States Board to approve it. And Jeff's at University of Connecticut at the time, their board, their IRB approved it. It was really weird because it took them 6 months to approve this thing because they didn't want to approve it because they thought it was just brutal, but they didn't until Jeff got them to finally understand these people were already doing this race and they were already doing these dietary protocols. It wasn't, they were just going to take data. They weren't going to force these people. They did this. So what they saw, and they were taking cheek cell swabs because you can get good readings, but the data was compelling from that because what they saw was the race caused massive oxidative stress on everybody.
Oh, right.
But the fat adapted athletes, all my athletes, 2 days, their fatty acid came right back to normal within 2 days, like bounced right back. Whereas the other people were just still in the ditch.
Wow.
Wow. And that's a big thing with your skin. And the thing is somebody like you or me, I don't wear sunscreen. I sweat a lot, and I've got my skin inoculated with a bacteria that helps generate nitric oxide, and it keeps me from stinking so bad. It works. But the point is that you have this adaptive stress of the sweat. You're naturally moisturizing your skin. You're getting sunlight, which you're supposed to get to generate vitamin D and all the other metabolites. Because Michael Hollick, who's the world's top researcher in vitamin D, he says that they suspect there's probably a dozen other compounds that's made through the photosynthesis along with vitamin D. It's a very dynamic process. So we're meant to get proper sun exposure, and both you and I get a lot.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And people wonder why here we are. I'm in my 60s, you're in your 50s, and we don't have all the wrinkles on my.
You look great. That's awesome.
Yeah, I look good. I wish I had more hair. I wish I had more hair here. I got it growing everywhere else.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, but I agree. Yeah.
And people, and it's like people who are eating a lot of carbs, staying out of the sun so their vitamin D is tanked.
Right.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Right. Exactly. And so I don't know if you're familiar with Andrew Huberman, but
Andrew Huberman,
So he's always saying, it's important to get out in the sun. Of course, we know there's degrees of that, right? I mean, we're not saying go out there and just bake yourselves and put a bunch of sunscreen on and fry your skin. It's just, but his whole thing of, rest is important, sleep, good nutrition, sunlight is key. I mean, those are the fundamentals. I feel like if you can understand them to wellness ultimately.
And that's the thing. It's like this isn't rocket science, but you have to be comprehensive, and people, like you said earlier, people want to glom onto some magic pill or magic diet or magic training routine, and it's like I say, you're being given a one-dimensional solution to a multi-dimensional thing, which is you're not one-dimensional. The individual is not one-dimensional.
Exactly, and that's true. Exactly. So that's the other thing is that it does take time to sort it all out, but I feel like if you have information and you can start making adjustments in your nutritional profile and then implementing things like Vespa that are going to really, I feel like, accelerate,
Oh yeah.
then
yeah. Or restricting your carbohydrates, eating whole foods. These are all tools. Vespa's a tool.
Precisely.
Right.
Precisely. Right. Versus, oh, I'm just going to drink this shake or eat this bar and it's going to do it all. And it doesn't happen that way.
Right. And let's give a shout out to people like Magda at Goo and
well, yes. And there's
a time and a place for those.
100%. And I have honey stinger gels. I use honey stinger gels. I have waffles. Sorry, I'm not a Goo person. I apologize, Magda. I think she knows that. But anyway.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's like use whatever what works for you on race day.
And that's it. It doesn't mean you just use your Vespa and expect, and that's the other thing, right? People think, oh, well, am I just supposed to use this Vespa like it's like a gel? And we've talked about this before. No, that doesn't work. You need calories. Like you just
don't need as much as you think you need.
Correct.
Because you have most of it on your body. It's like Pareto's law, 80-20.
That's right. Exactly.
On race day. If you go on a training run, I mean, how many days have you done trainings on Vespa salt and water, Vespa electrolytes and water?
Oh, most of them.
I know.
Most of them. Seriously.
And isn't it a wonderful feeling?
What's that?
Isn't it a wonderful feeling to not have your body trying to digest while you're exercising?
Yeah. I mean, it's, and I have to tell you, I have a lot of friends or family even, honestly, that are saying, wow, don't you think you should wake up and have something in your, put something in your stomach, have a big breakfast, or, you're going to go out for a number of hours. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, this is it. Like, I don't need to get super intense here with a bunch of calories, and my body's going to take care of it. And it does. I mean, it's essentially, like you said, water, electrolytes, and Vespa.
No, it's great. It's crazy.
It is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to make a point about with referring to Andrew Huberman and the science, and here's the thing, because I'm the guy that does the deep dives. I go down the rabbit holes. You know that, right? You can't get me to shut up when I start talking. But the more I go down, it's like I say, and this is true, humbly, the more I learn, the less I know. There's just so much.
There is,
and there's so many variables, and that's why having a coach to work with you or to work out your individual variables is so important. But the point I want to make about our OFM approach, getting yourself back to that thing, is the science is complex and it's dynamic and it's very individualized. However, talking about those basics, the execution is remarkably easy once you can let go and quit trying to micromanage it. I mean, it's just, and I think that one of the things I like about ultra running is, like, the first time I did a trail run, it reminded me of hunting when I was a kid. Just being on the trails all day. It just felt natural, right? And I think that the whole ultra running or the fast packing or the hiking thing, that type of lifestyle particularly aids in getting you into that zone of execution where it's just very seamless and natural, right? Because now that you've been doing it for several years, do you ever think about what you eat? Do you ever count the macros?
No,
you don't. Or you don't, and you need to work out if you've been lazy, or if you're overtraining. You need to take a day off. It just kind of works out that way. And unfortunately, a lot of other sports have become very metric and data driven and technology driven. And you see people go nuts, like the triathletes, where they got the crossbar of their bike at the one taped with 20 gels on the crossbar. And they're
exactly. I mean, it's like this very conventional way, right, of doing a sport or doing anything. Like, you just think you're hanging on to this, conventional thinking that I think is to me, it's not going to be good for you. I mean, I think if you can expand your mind, like for me, it was hard, as I said at the beginning of this discussion, at first I was like, wait a second, like, how does this Vespa work? And I was so skeptical about it until I really started to do a deeper dive myself, and then started to make some changes. And then I started to see the results, but I had to let go. And I don't think you're not going to get it unless you are willing to expand your mind and try something different.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is a shift. It's a shift.
It's a leap of faith, because the conventional wisdom has everybody looking at these external metrics, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Instead of trusting your own innate body to deliver. And it's like, people have to stop and think, we've got thousands of calories on us.
Exactly. It's hard because then you don't want to get into this whole thing of, we're poo-pooing the industry that is making all of this stuff, right? Because, the goos and the hammers and the, all these companies, I mean, obviously they're there, they have a purpose. However, it's just that we have to get out of this mindset that should be automatically expected of us, to assume that we're going to need to do like a gel every 45 minutes and a waffle, you know what I mean? That we get into this.
Some people do a gel every 20 minutes.
Or 20 minutes. I've actually raced girls that are having GI issues on the course as I'm passing them, and I say to them, what's going on? And it's like, oh, well, I had too many gels. My stomach is blowing up. And I'm like, well, what have you been doing? Oh, I had gel I think one girl told me she had a gel every 25, 30 minutes. And I'm thinking, wow, that's way too much, and I'm like, stop what you're doing. And this is my advice. Stop taking gels and just drink water, sip on water, and just keep moving.
Salt and water.
Yeah. And I've said this to a number of different athletes in general on the course, while racing, just pull back everything, simplify, and just keep going.
For the last 4 or 5 years, I've gone out with Tim Tweetmeyer.
Oh yeah.
During the golden hour.
Yeah.
Right. And we pick up the stragglers to help them so they can make the cutoff. Right. Then Jill Cole was one of them.
Yes. Right? Yes. Shout out to Jill.
I did that. And I've done that every year. I give them an S cap, water, and a Vespa Ultra Concentrate, and they get running. And Jill was the last runner we picked up.
Yes.
And she was in dead last. Tim picked up the people before her. Dead last. I gave her an S cap, water, and a Vespa Ultra Concentrate. She passed both people. She got running, and she was a hero, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's on YouTube. I mean, it was like so many people are just like, oh my gosh. And she
was running.
Yes. I was watching it. I was watching the live stream, and I remember seeing you thinking, oh my gosh, there's Peter. Peter's picking up Jill. He's
well, I got to go find my women somewhere. When they're half dead on the trail, they're sort of receptive to me. Beware of naked men bearing Vespa.
But she was so cute, because afterwards she said, oh my gosh, Peter it was like you came out of nowhere. He hands me a Vespa. I have my water, my salt, and then she had another gear. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Awesome. And that happened every year I do that. And every year they get going, because, by that time they're trash. So it's kind of interesting, because we have this body, our bodies are meant to burn fat. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. And right before this podcast, I was talking to Nell Stephenson, the paleoista. She worked with Lauren Cardane when the paleo diet first came out.
Oh yeah. Oh,
interesting. So I coach her on stuff like this for a competition, and she's getting ready to do the LA Marathon. She was actually asking me, what's the pitch I give these people? Because they say, well, Stacy Sims says this, women need carbs, and I can't do what you do. Because Nell is like, I've got Nell dialed in. And that was the missing piece, because the paleo diet, I don't know if you know, but Lauren Cordain, he was like in that conventional educational thing, and he didn't understand that your liver can make all the glucose it can from fat. So that's why the paleo diet always had that fruit. And you could have all these things, because he thought you needed the glucose from an external source. And I remember Jeff Bollock and Steve Finney trying to explain that to him, and he initially didn't understand that, because just like with you, that's what the education. So you're not the only one. That was just what was taught anyway. But we got her dialed in, and she's just, I mean, ever since she's been doing this, but I was telling her how she was asking me this because, you know, Stacy Sims wrote that book Roar, and she's been kind of like, okay, and I'm not saying she's wrong about it. It's just very contextual. And that's like, females need to become better fat burners, but they're being told this message that, oh no, you can't, you're a female. It's like, no, females are designed to be the ultimate fat burner, because as I say, the reason women have more sensitive hunger triggers. They'll save more, they'll store more fat real easily, but it's all for a reason. They're hyper fat burners because it's like I say, they're eating. A woman, in far as biology, me as my biologist hat on, right? A woman's role in nature, in that cycle of life, is you're made to eat and save for two, because late gestation, childbirth, lactation,
right,
your hunting gathering skills aren't very good, right? Right. And you can't depend on the male to be around.
That's right. That's right. Well,
I mean,
right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have to be pretty much self-sufficient. And that's why women put it on more. But when they get to that late gestation, childbirth, lactation, their fat burning gets kicked into overdrive. And just like you or Roxanne or Jenny or any of the gals I work with, you can get females. Okay. You can get females to do it. It's just that you have to work on like you say, that like we're talking about, that multi-dimensional paradigm. And one of the things I wanted to bring up about the carbs was the other big factor that's just as big a deal as too many carbs in the diet is too much stress in the diet, or too much stress in the life, right?
Well, yes, that's true. Very true. Yes.
And you know, you see that with all these type A people who are trying to be perfect, you know, whether they're triathletes or health conscious people, and that stress about being perfect in their diet or their workout or whatever is just as bad a thing as the donuts.
Well, and it's interesting that you're bringing this up, because I was having a conversation about this with one of my clients today. She's a attorney, you know, very successful attorney. She works with a lot of, you know, pre-IPO companies here in the Silicon Valley. And she, you know, was an early founder of Microsoft. And anyway, we were talking, and she, you know, she's a high performer, so to speak. Very, you know, everything is very
type A driven.
Yes, very calculated, very successful. Has children, and you know, I
Does
love
she have
her.
a husband?
She has a husband. Yes.
Really? Wow.
She has a husband, and for a long time. Yes, wow. I know.
That's really successful.
Yeah, but you know, she sometimes comes to me and she's like stressed to the max, and she's saying, you know, I need to get this weight off. What do I do? You know, so I'm coaching her on not just fitness, but also nutrition. But one of the things we were talking about today, specifically to your point, is cortisol, you know, stress, and just how it will kill you. It just,
physiologically, you might as well be eating Snickers bars.
That's it.
And that's popping M&Ms.
Yeah, I just said, she's like, what do I need to do? And I said, you need to stop stressing out. You need to stop trying to control everything. You need to relax, you know, meditate.
You know, and if you talk to her again, tell her you talk to, you know, the guy you work with, Peter, the crazy guy. But here's another thought of mine. Yeah. Is it's particularly endemic in type A females right now, these driven, high performing females.
Yes.
And this is my thinking. Of course, it's somebody can label me as a toxic male because it's coming from me, the male, right? I got hair on my chest, all that stuff. But thinking about it as a biologist, I think that one of the reasons that underlying things that drives these women to have such high cortisol and stress and the weight is because they're fundamentally, because of their drive and because of that messaging, they're in fundamental conflict with themselves, because women are meant to be nurturing. They're meant to be mothers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And the modern thing where they're trying to be mothers and raise kids and have this career, that's because that biological instinct to be a mom, to nurture,
and
it's just so hard. Whereas guys don't have to deal with that. We're meant to go out there and charge and conquer and maybe get eaten up in the process, or survive and win or whatever. But we don't have that conflict. We don't look at that mothering instinct the same way. Now, can that be channeled to help them be successful in careers? Absolutely. I'm not saying it can't, but I do think there's this, like I say, women want to nest, men want to conquer the world. We want a place to come home to, but we still want to go out and conquer the world. We're not, whereas women, that nest is it's just a fundamental, and the good thing about this is women have this biological anchoring and stability because of that,
right. Yeah.
They're much more grounded, whereas, males are on self-destruct. They don't have a real reason to, a purpose in life. And like one of the things I really identify with about Joe is he has a sense of purpose. He's not there for the money. He's there to help athletes do better and coach them and be better. And he's into seeing people do better. And that's, that's a good grounding. And that's very attractive to a real woman. That's a compliment to you there.
Well, thank you.
You got a guy that's a man. It's not about the money. It's about the mission. And it's about, he stays healthy, stays fit, but it's about a sense of purpose bigger than himself.
Right. Exactly. Right? Yes. And that's very interesting. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, because I
think that's something. And I've actually had this conversation with some of my clients who are just like your female attorney clients. And it's like, oh, and on the other hand, I've had this conversation with some of my male clients that, because they're at this point in life where they've achieved, they've made it, right? They've arrived. And now they don't know what to do because they don't have the challenges.
That's right.
So for a male, that's the conundrum for them. So it's kind of an interesting, and all these things are stressors that if you're not aware of them and not dealing with them, they really can impact your health and performance and your aging.
Exactly. 100%. I can't agree with you more. I think you nailed it. That's exactly right.
No. I'm a toxic male.
No. Oh my gosh. No, you're not toxic, Peter. Oh man. No, but I appreciate you saying it, because that's a really good way to put it too. You know what I mean? It's like, I think our society has, obviously we can go on and on about society, right? And their messaging and the expectations. And, as a mom, I have a daughter who's almost 22.
I know just by knowing you well enough and seeing, even though your daughter's older and in college, that's still it.
Oh yeah. It's like I stopped the world for her, and and she knows that. And, I try to give her as much room to be her person and support her, but, I still have my little mom things that I do. And, I still sort of,
they're not little mom things, they're big mom things.
Yeah. But, she's seen me. From the time she was in the womb, she knows even before she was born, I was an athlete. And then, it's really cute when I see these Instagram posts that go up with these moms, these new mom athletes. And I'm like, man, too bad Instagram wasn't around when I was, racing Xterras, and I gave birth to my daughter and was at the Xterra World Championships when she was like 6 months old. You know what I mean? I would have been like blasting that stuff all over social media. Because it's super cool, and it's awesome because I've lived that, and I'm really grateful. And so to get back to my daughter, she's seen me, she's seen her mom, who's, mom, the athlete, mom, the mom, being mom and going to the school events, and then mom, the career woman. And it's, and she knows that I really strive to have as much balance in my life. And I influence her that it's important to have time for her, to take the time to try to feed her body good things, feed her mind good things, make sure she gets lots of rest, and not allow the world and all the stuff going on in it to just, because it will swallow you up,
Oh, God. Yeah. Let's
swallow
not even
you
get into
up.
that.
Yeah. So I just, she is in that place in her life and her friends and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now, as we know. But all that is to say is I really try to emphasize to her, her name is Summer Blue. You got to take care of you. You want to be healthy. You want to be happy. You got to take care of yourself.
Well, and that's the thing is like, that's the conversation with these type A females is, okay, you don't have to excel in all this. You have to take care of yourself because you can't take care of anything else. You can't take care of yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think this, this biological grounding, because one of my clients and part of my team is Dr. Linda Frazier, who I just did a couple podcasts with.
Mm-hmm.
And I even said to her one time, you're just in complete alignment with your femininity, because, she went to college, went to med school at Davis, was in med school, got pregnant, had a kid, started raising a family, became a pediatrician, right?
Mm-hmm.
So her profession was in line with the whole mothering instinct, raised her family, had grandkids. Now she's coaching the Buffalo Chips youth thing, and she's running and racing, and along the way, like she even talks about publicly, is, she was trying to be healthy and got into the whole high carb, low fat thing. And it had some impacts on her, but now she's coming back from it. She found the primal, like Jeff, she found the primal diet, made some improvements, wasn't complete. And then she found me.
Right.
And
right.
Just like Jeff, it's kind of like once she got the OFM and Vespa going, she ran a lifetime PR at the age of 64 in October.
I saw that. I think that was shared. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Really. That's great.
But that's why I say is like, she's a good example of this, because the way she's living her life, especially now that she's OFM, right?
Yeah.
But she and her husband have a little place up in the foothills outside of Placerville. They got goats, dogs, cats. They got grandchildren in Sacramento, and doing, she's retired from full-time pediatrics, but she does some pickup work in the detention centers. She goes down to Central and South America to do volunteer work. That's awesome. It's just really
giving back.
But that's like, she's not fighting her biology is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I'm not suggesting that somebody who has that career in what was traditionally a man's world can't have both, but they have to be aware of that biological anchoring of their femininity and pay attention to it and channel it in a way that works for them, because otherwise there's a constant conflict, because they're trying to be good at their careers, because
that's right.
And they're trying to be good at mothering, whereas guys can bifurcate really easily.
Definitely.
They don't have all that, and that stress, like we were talking, is physiologically, that stress is just, it just wrecks people, and it really keeps them from getting their metabolic health where it really should be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
So what do you got on the docket for this year? Tahoe Rim?
So I am not doing Tahoe Rim. I decided I was
going to let Roxanne do it.
I'm gonna let Roxanne do it. Yeah, we saw each other there last year, and then I guess she had an injury, and so she couldn't do it.
And she had a spiral fracture right before the race.
Oh, okay. I didn't know exactly, but anyway, I ended up doing it, then dropping at mile 50. And so anyway, I was hoping to go for my 5th finish, and honestly, I have no reason other than to say I just wasn't feeling it. And I just got to mile 50 and I just said, I'm done. So I mean, and it was hot and there's some other things, but I just didn't want to push through that. And I said, it's okay. So I ended up fast forward competing at Rio del Lago in November, and was 6th woman. So at Rio del Lago. So I'm pretty happy about that.
54 or 53?
At 54.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6th woman overall. I could have finished top 3, Beverly Anderson abs took second. I love that woman. But the reason why I ended up falling back was because I had some issues with my shoes. And that's a lame excuse because I'm very seasoned, but I just had some shoe issues and just a couple of other things that didn't quite line up. And it threw my race. And, I mean, nothing nutritional at all. I felt great, but I'm happy with the 6th place finish. So, pretty happy with that. And so this year I'm going to race Black Canyon 100K next month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go out there and race that for the first time. Feeling really good. I was just there 2 weeks ago, checking out the course. And now I have a good understanding of the entire course. So I'm going to go race that event. And then I have the Boston Marathon in April.
Okay.
In May, I'm going to race the Me Walk 100K. In July,
I love the name of it, Me Walk.
I love Me Walk. That's a favorite. And then, so that's early May. July, I have Speed Goat 50K. That's a UTMB, series race qualifier for the Stones. And then I have the Bear 100.
I think Jeff's racing Bear this year.
I'm excited about that because I've done Wasatch, but I've never done the Bear. So I'm excited about the Bear. And then I have.
The big thing about the Bear is the cold weather at night.
Yeah. Well, I raced Wasatch. So I ran, and which is only 2 weeks before the Bear. So that 2 weeks can be, make a difference. Because the latitude and where the Bear is, it can get everybody. I've had a lot of athletes do the Bear, and it gets cold at night. Okay, that's good to know. So the Bear is my big 100, then New York Marathon, and then the Quad Dipsy.
Oh God, the Quad Dipsy. I swear to God, John Mediger must have been one of those kids that tortured animals when he was a kid, because you look at his races like Lake Sonoma, Quad Dipsy, it's like they're sadistic.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I remember I was there one year and Jen Shelton came in from the first loop and she said, I'm done. And she's like, had a 20-minute lead over second place female. She said, I'm done. I'm like, why are you doing this? And now I get it. It's like, that woman was really intelligent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like you come in after the first section, that first out and back, just Vincent and back. And and you get to do it again. So, I mean, I'm happy I finished 4th there, 4th and 7th overall,
wow.
After 50. So there you have it, so I'm excited.
You can keep it going after 50. And that's the wonderful thing. And so, one of the things we're trying to do, and you're going to be part of this, I'm going to rope you in, is we want to really push this idea of metabolic health, because we're all living it, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll admit, I listen to NPR, but I'm just appalled at how unbalanced the reporting is. And it's like, if you look at the data and you actually step back and look at this from a different perspective than the standard medical intervention type of acute medical intervention, it's like, this is nothing but a metabolic health crisis. I mean, when this first came out, as soon as the genome was sequenced and out, I looked at the primary literature and I looked at it and said, oh, as coronaviruses go, this is actually a middle of the road virus. I know that sounds kind of epically silly saying that because it's a pandemic, the average person, but it was not as virulent as the SARS-1 back in 2002 or the MERS or the swine flu. It wasn't actually as deadly. The problem is with the furin cleavage site, it was way more transmissible.
Right. And so, I actually got the swine flu.
Yeah, and that was bad, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it came on and then it was gone.
Right,
it's like
but you're metabolically healthy.
Yeah.
This is the thing, is like Dr. Kathy, one of the people I work with regularly. She's a client, she's a friend, she's part of my team. She was in New Jersey getting the transfers at the beginning of the whole thing. So she was working the whole thing, never got vaccinated, but she's like livid about this because she says everybody in the ICU had multiple complications. Almost all of those were preventable. And nobody's talking about this. So we want to, I don't want to bag on that too much, but basically this is a wake-up call that people need to be metabolically healthy, because it's like viruses replicate glycolytically. So if your cells burn glucose, and obesity, hyperinsulinemia, diabetes, those are things that people were getting serious COVID cases out of, right? Because their cells are programmed to burn sugar, which means it's going to facilitate viral replication. And so, and I've had natural immunity twice. First time I got it in July of 2020. I didn't even know I had it till I got over it.
Wow.
Because I thought the symptoms I had was because I was running in 105, 107 degree heat. I had a bit of a headache. I had a bit of a sore throat. I had a bit of body aches, right? When you run in the heat, that's kind of what you feel like.
Exactly. Yeah. You're like, yeah, well, and
then on the fifth day, I felt so much better. I was running every day in it, and I felt so much better. Oh, I know. It's because I was helping my friend who had a really bad case. I had to physically help him. He went to Arizona and got that in July of 2020. There was that outbreak in Arizona, and he was in Arizona, came back with it, was sick. So I had to help move him around. And I just got it, never knew I had it. And then I ran across the years in 21, untrained, and it was cold and wet, and I didn't take care of myself after, and I got that Omicron. It was a cold. It was basically a cold for a week. I wasn't in bed, but I was just had a prolonged cold and didn't worry about it. But it's like
work through it.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, and that's the thing is like, when you look at the data of who's getting sick and dying of natural infections, the markers are crystal clear. The immunocompromised, which means the older people with low vitamin D, people with hyperinsulinemia, which means super high insulin levels. That was a death sentence, because it was just, make your cells going to burn sugar, you're going to make viral strands, you're going to die, obesity. So but this is the, and this is the thing, is like, you see this with your clients. Getting them metabolically healthy has all these other benefits that they don't even know they're gaining.
Definitely. Yeah. I totally agree, and I think to your point, a lot of just in general, those that are prone to illness tend to have, compromised systems, immune systems. Their metabolic health, to your point, is compromised. So then it's kind of not a surprise, right? To me, it was very apparent that those are the people that are going to be susceptible, So,
so moving forward, I think hopefully there's enough people out there who are aware of that. And I think now there are. I think people are starting to realize, the policy didn't focus on fixing the problem. Just trying to put a Band-Aid on it as quickly. I'm not saying nobody had bad intentions. I don't want to bag on anybody. I think it's just that I think that there was a lot of money driving certain agendas versus some of the simple things people could, if people were told that you have more control than you think of, get off the crappy food, the carbohydrates, the seed oils, start walking a little bit, get your vitamin D up.
That's right. Drink more water, sleep more
water,
stress less.
Right, exactly. Nobody was doing, and these are all things we can empower people to do. Nobody was doing that. So I mean, it sounds like a conspiracy theory thing, but it's these are real simple, no cost things. So, but the problem is you're empowering people and you're not taking money out of their wallet.
Exactly. Yes, it's free.
It's free. Yeah, it's free.
It's free.
And if you want to take it up a notch, we get somebody like you to help them out. So, let's talk about that. Like, I think it's important that right now, because there's so much information out there and a lot of it contradicts each other, right? And I don't think that anybody, I think very few of the people out there putting out a lot of health advice have a bad intention.
Mhm.
They either have a confirmational bias, or they know enough to be dangerous, or it's out of context. But the problem is the average consumer doesn't know what to do, right? So they're trying to get through this massive sea of information on what to do for their health.
Right.
And who do you trust? And like we just talked about, a lot of people are realizing that maybe the official party line governmental stuff might not be the best place to look for it anymore. You know, that I mean, we've, you know, for the last 30 years, following the dietary guidelines, following the advice, you know, we just had this new official in the White House, some doctor. Did you see that doctor? She's African-American. She says that diet and exercise have nothing to do with obesity.
No, I didn't hear this. No, I didn't.
Oh
No.
yeah, there's some
Wow, that's
new
crazy.
policy person in the Biden administration.
Wow.
I can't remember who it was, but and I'm sure there was a little bit of hype or out of context,
Sure.
but she was basically saying
Oh my-
that your diet, obesity is a genetic thing and you can't influence it through diet and exercise.
That is crazy.
Yeah, but that's the kind of, so
wow.
can you really trust the mainstream advice anymore? So,
No.
you know, and a lot of this stuff, like we talked earlier, the science part of it's really complex. So
Mhm.
where are you going to go? And that's where, you know, I think that
Yeah.
you need to look at the people who are doing it. And I think that, you know,
Yeah.
you're, for example, okay, I kind of want to be coached by her on my nutrition, my training, because she's 54,
Yeah.
still got it going, right?
And that's right. And that's what I think is, I always, you know, I talk to a lot of athletes. Sorry, I thought I'd turn my phone off. Sorry, just give me one quick second to just mute it.
I
again.
turned my ringer off.
I thought it was off and I can hear it vibrating, so I apologize. But, you know, when somebody calls me and they're interested in being coached, you know, they're essentially interviewing me and I'm interviewing them. But I always say, you know, it's okay if at the end of the day you don't hire me as your coach. I mean, my feelings aren't going to be hurt because, you know, I always say it's important that you look at, you know, the philosophy of the person that's coaching you, but also that you look at them in terms of, you know, what do they do in terms of performance? How have they performed? Have they actually performed in the sport that you're interested in being coached in? What has been their experience, but also how do they look? You know, just what's their lifestyle like? I mean, you have to really, in my opinion, you should take into account all of these things because it just can't be, oh, well, you know, they ran this race and did that. Okay, well, that's great. But if they're smoking and drinking and they're not taking care of themselves and they're out late at night partying down with their friends, I'm not sure I'm going to trust that person to coach, right? Or if they've got a lifestyle that is, you know, counter to being productive and healthy. And I don't know that that's necessarily somebody I would suggest you go with. I mean, I don't want to sound judgy, but that's, to me, I just think that.
Well, no, but the person, the client's got to make a judgment on who to choose, where they're going to get their information, whether they have a coach or whether they buy an online plan or do the whole 30 or you know,
and that's
who they're following online. And the problem is you're going to, you know, you at the end of the day, people got to find a source they can really, this works for me. And like I say, when you get a coach, ostensibly what that coach is going to do is individualize a program for you. That's why you're hiring a coach versus.
Precisely. Yeah. It's not going to be cookie cutter. That's the other thing is
That's right.
Me, a good coach is somebody who's going to engage with their athlete, like engage, you know, I mean, my athletes know that they can contact me pretty much anytime. I'm like, I'm going to respond to you. If you text me, if you call me, I mean, I have to say, I'm really thankful that I have amazing clients and athletes, but they know that I have a door, you know, doors always open and they're respectful of my time. So they also know that I'm, again, a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a career woman, but they're very respectful. So I say to them, you know what, I'm going to carve out time for you every week, which I do. So they know that. I'm invested in their training process from beginning to end. I want to see them get the results that they're looking for. We set goals, we achieve them. I mean, it's measurable. So it's not just, hey, I'm just going to send you a plan next week. I'll collect the payment, their monthly fee, and then boom, I'm done with you until the next time. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So,
Because that's the thing. There's so much information out there. So how do we find you?
Oh, how do you find me? So so I'm on Instagram at Catch the Breeze.
With a Z.
With a Z. There's no EESE. It's Catch the Breeze, BREEZ on Instagram. And also I'm on Facebook, Bree Lambert Sanders. And I have an athlete page there. And then you can find me at livewellfinishstrong.com.
Yep. livewellfinishstrong.com.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we had a great conversation today.
We did. It was fun. It was so nice to catch up with you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So
it's been crazy. We got a lot more stuff going on, and when I get it ready, I'll be engaging with you on that, because I think it'll be we're developing some tools where coaches like you who get it about what we're doing can leverage your coaching, be able to give your clients a better experience, be able to add to your revenue stream, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited because I have, not most, I can't say all of my clients. I'll say most of my clients are Vespa users. In fact, a couple of good friends, one good friend of mine, Paul Marshall, I'll give him a shout out, is a new ambassador for Vespa. And, but yeah, I mean,
and by the way, it's just an ambassador program this year. And, like athletes like you contact us about anything special you want us to do to help you out, but it's just one program.
Yeah.
And then like people like you, we work with on an individual basis. So don't feel shy. Because Bree is our elite athletes, and we want to get that out there, because we have so many athletes, like I say, in their 50s and 60s who are just still killing it, not to mention people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you look at our stable of chronologically older athletes and what they're doing and capable of doing, I mean, I think what we're doing is pretty well exemplary of we're effectively cracking that longevity code.
Definitely. I agree with you completely.
I mean, you're a perfect example. I mean, look at you. You're hot. You're a little hottie. You're a tall hottie. I'll say that even though you're a married girl, and I know Joe.
I'm having Joe listen to this podcast, by the way. I'm going to make sure he tunes in. I'm going to tell him, listen, you have to listen to this. So thank you. I appreciate it.
I can't keep my mouth shut. I just call it as I see it. That doesn't mean I'm hitting on you, Bree, but it's just like, no, you look fabulous.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's like,
thanks.
Let's continue this journey. And that's the big thing. It's like, that's really what it's about, folks, is this, everything is your journey, and we're here to guide you. You got to do the work, you got to guide you. And like I say, whether you like it or not, no matter who you are, we're all entered in this ultra called life.
That's right.
And there's no getting out of it.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Well, thank you, Peter. I appreciate it so much having you here.
Thank you. Like I said, big shout out to Rob Evans for putting us together eons ago. Bree was a little resident to come and dance with us, but now she's been on board.
Yep, totally. All right. Take care. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.